Sometimes the vision, and here's the first thing I tell everybody: the vision has to be uniquely yours. We got to be so careful in this fast-paced world of social media. So many people are falling prey to all these gurus out there and all these people
Yeah.
who are touting success as what I call the vision board starter kit: the Lamborghini, the yacht, the private jet, the mansion, the helicopter, the big gold watch, and the honking pile of cash and gold bars in their basement. And so many people think that's what success is. Success is whatever it means to you. And going back to something you just said, talking about I'm just and they list their occupation. You don't have to throw your entire current life in a brush chipper to be able to do other stuff and be successful.
All right, well, welcome everyone back to the Sean Trey Show. I've got a really awesome guest with me today. Now, would you like to tell people a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Thank you, Sean. My name is Steve Gamlin. I enjoyed life as a professional speaker now for a little over 20 years. Former stand-up comedian, former radio guy, author of 4 books so far. And at recently turned 57, I have lived every single goal that I wanted to have, what I wanted to become when I was 11 years old.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that's something that people should talk more about, man. Like to live the goals that you had when you were 11 is a heck of a thing, man. What were some of the goals that you've lived that you had when you were 11?
All 4 of them. And I've got a lot of birthday candles on some of your listeners. So when I was 11 years old, I wanted to be a radio DJ because of a TV character named Dr. Johnny Fever on WKRP in Cincinnati. I wanted to be a stand-up comedian because Steve Martin was huge at the time. I wanted to be an author of my own books because my mom had instilled the love of reading and writing in my sister and I. And I wanted to be a teacher of people, but not in a classroom, because I had an amazing 5th grade teacher named Mrs. Farron, who, whenever I finished my work early, she encouraged me to help out and coach, in a way, some of the other students who may not have gotten the lesson as easily as I did. So when I was 11 years old, she actually had me coaching other students. So that's everything I wanted to be. And in the middle of all the highs and lows, believe me, it has not all been one straight climb up the mountain. Trust me. There's a reason one of my stage stories is called "Some Days Your Phoenix Rides a Pogo Stick," because I've scorched a few tail feathers falling into the fire and sabotaging my life into the fire a few times over the years. But for better or for worse, I've gotten to do them all. And here we are.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, let's talk about vision, because you a big part of your brand is looking at vision, and you're wearing a shirt that says "Got Vision," and I love it. Right now, a lot of people are trying to figure out where they're going and why they're doing it, because those two separate things. Like where you're going and why you're doing it are both really important. And I was talking to someone about this recently, and a lot of people want change, but there's a fear of like, can a tiger change its stripes, and we get into this rut, like I'm a teacher or I'm a whatever that profession might be, and can you shift to something else? What is the vision that's required to make those changes?
Yeah. Sometimes the vision, and here's the first thing I tell everybody: the vision has to be uniquely yours. We got to be so careful in this fast-paced world of social media. So many people are falling prey to all these gurus out there and all these people who are touting success as what I call the vision board starter kit: the Lamborghini, the yacht, the private jet, the mansion, the helicopter, the big gold watch, and the honking pile of cash and gold bars in their basement. And so many people think that's what success is. Success is whatever it means to you. And going back to something you just said, talking about I'm just and they list their occupation. You don't have to throw your entire current life in a brush chipper to be able to do other stuff and be successful. One of the conversations I remember, this is when I first started out, somebody very close to me in my life, a very successful accountant. She's incredibly smart. I'll just reveal it. She's my sister. She was saying that she wanted to walk away from it all because she wanted to work in the nonprofit world with children with disabilities. but she couldn't take the pay cut. She couldn't survive for what those organizations would pay. And she was working 60, 70 hours a week at the time, burning herself out. So I made a suggestion that she seek out some nonprofits in her area that were doing activities on the weekends with children with disabilities. And a couple of weeks later, she reached out to me and said, "Oh my God, this Saturday morning, I'm going to volunteer for 2 or 3 hours going bowling with this group of people. I'm just one of the volunteers." And the next week, she sent me another message like, "Oh, and next weekend, I'm doing this and I'm doing this." All of a sudden, she was able to do what she really wanted to do in her heart, even though she didn't do it for a career. She said it made it so much easier to tolerate all the hard work she had to do at her regular job to get to those slivers of time where she got to do what she was passionate about. So, I wish more people would realize you don't have to fill your life with that one passionate thing, but if you make it a part of your life, it can help you to get through the rest of it and actually make you a better person with a better attitude, getting through the rest of what you have to do to survive.
One of the things that I want to touch on, one thing that you said there that I really liked, there's a lot that I really like, but like the one thing that popped up too is I had a guest come onto my financial podcast recently, and he was talking about wealth. And you're right. One of the things that there is this idea that people have that wealth is the gold bars, the Lamborghini. And like one of the things that he was talking about is there are different areas of wealth. Are you wealthy with your health? Are you wealthy with your time? Are you wealthy with your relationships? Are you wealthy with your enjoyment of this and that? Yesterday, my daughter and I, we went to the zoo. Picked her up from school and we went to the zoo. We made some fun videos and just had some fun, but it was mainly to have fun. And we didn't focus on making anything. We just went to see the animals. And she was like, "Why are we here? What are we doing today, Daddy? Why are we here?" And I was just like, "Just to go to the zoo, just to hang out and see the zoo, see the animals." And she's like, "I love that." And it was like in that moment, it doesn't matter where I'm at financially at that moment. That was wealthy. That was to me a wealthy moment. And it was something that was unique to me. It was personal to me. And we were able to talk and look at the trees. And I said, "You know that this is one of the oldest zoos in the world? And the plants and these trees were planted by someone over like almost 160 years ago." And like, we were just talking about stuff that was interesting, and she was interested in it. And then we went to see the animals that we wanted to see, and those little things were powerful, and it was unique, and it was special, and it was something that was uniquely mine. And it was just like my vision board is going to look different from someone else's. But yet for me, I think when I would go back to a younger version of myself, my vision board is going to look like that stereotypical, what everyone thinks that you need on there. But now it's going to be very different. Time with family is of utmost importance to me, and whatever I can craft in my career and other areas is going to be something that reflects that.
Yeah. And like you said, too many people fall into that trap where it's all about the money and the material things. And the way that I teach visualization is, and this overwhelms a lot of people, but then I get their feet back, under them. The way I teach it, there are 8 major areas of our lives. We have our physical health, which you mentioned, our emotional well-being. Imagine that, setting goals for the emotions you want to feel. Our closest relationships, which you also mentioned. Our core values that guide everything we think, speak, and do. Our faith, which is really kind of the same thing, but the authority comes from a different direction. Our connection to the world in real ways. And that took a beating during the pandemic. We had rising addiction, depression, everything bad from being isolated. And then we have our career and our money. Now, all 8 of those areas are operating 24/7, and that overwhelms a lot of people. But if you start to think, look at what you did yesterday. Your emotional well-being was through the roof. You were joyful and happy. Great relationship with your daughter. So you have that. And you learned more. You had connection that day. And you did it in such a way that you actually took time and enjoyed the time together, which is just amazing. And you're the second person in 2 weeks that has taken a day to go to the zoo. And the other one was a woman I know who went with her husband. She said, "Let's just go to the zoo." And I suggested to her, take your favorite picture that you took while you were there that day and surprise your partner, or in your case, surprise your daughter by having a fridge magnet made of what you think her favorite picture might have been, and put it on the fridge at her height, not your height, her height, and see if she notices it. Even wait a month to do it. And you watch her, she'll tap right back into that emotion. And that to me is what vision boards are all about. It's not set it and forget it. It's not an arts and crafts project. It's thinking of where your life is right now and where you'd like it to be even a year from now. Don't start with the 20-year thing because you're going to bail. Start a year from now. Point A, point B, and then start rolling and celebrate the moments along the way. That's a huge part of it that not enough people teach.
One of the things that you pointed out there is that I had seen something like this as well. And I really like framing things back into manageable progressions. Like when I was talking to this one person and they were looking at, we were talking about someone else coaching and they were like making, I think about, let's say this much amount per year, 50,000 a year, right? And they were saying, I want to make 10 million a year. And I said, okay. And I said, well, how can you go about making 100,000 a year? I can't do that. That's so hard. And they were like, but I was like, hang on, but you can say 1 million is possible, but you can't hit this next progression. You know, what would allow you to get there? And they're like, well, I don't see how I can pull that off. And it was interesting because there was this mental block. There was this dreaming of the future was easy because it was like, oh, it's 20 years out. You know, I can be hitting those goals. I don't know how, but trying to get from here to their next step was challenging for them because they didn't see how they could make a logical progression. And it was interesting to see them get hung up so much on how can I get to that next step?
Yeah, for me, it comes down, and here's the difference between a magic carpet and an old wooden roller coaster, which the roller coaster story is one I've been telling since even before I became a speaker. So many of these people say they want to go from, you know, whatever now to $10 million. So they're waiting for some magic carpet to come along and magically transport them there. When in real life, it's like an old wooden roller coaster. You know, we get on at the bottom, parking lot level. It doesn't hold that many people. So you want to make sure your plan has the right coaches, mentors, people, support, you know, cheerleaders, everything on that ride. You want to surround yourself with the best people. And then you look up at the top of that first hill, and that's any one of your goals, any of them.
Yeah.
Say 1 year out. You can't skip any. You can't start halfway up. You have to go slowly and methodically, click, 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 click. You've got to hit every single one. And as you get going a little bit, and sometimes people say, well, I didn't feel like I was getting anywhere, so I bailed on my goal. What you got to do every once in a while is look over your shoulder and realize, hey, I'm 20 feet above the parking lot now. I used to be down there. Now I'm here. And then you look up and you go, I feel like I'm getting closer to that. And if you just stay consistent, if you build better habits, if you build momentum, if you get that confidence going and you just keep going, and you're talking to the people around you, hey, what's up there for you? What are you looking for on the other side? You get up right near it. And that last one, when you look over the top and all of a sudden your eyes get big and you got that deep breath and you hang on because you're about to go on a ride you couldn't stop if you tried because you did all the work.
Yeah.
And you get to celebrate it, scream your brains out. And when you get to the end, here's the thing I tell everybody. If you really enjoyed that ride, what's the first thing you want to do? Get on again. And when you get on again, look for people around you who are looking as scared as you looked on your first time there. You say, hey, you setting a goal, you trying to improve something in your life? Why don't you come sit next to me? I'll tell you a story on the way up. And you get to then cheer on and coach other people because you're someone who has done it at least once. And I have a very addictive personality, which is why I quit drinking alcohol almost 4 years ago because I enjoyed it too much. I'm addicted to winning and cheering people on. And I love riding the roller coaster over and over and over again. I'm alcohol free and 40 pounds down, kicked to the curb over the past almost 4 years. Embracing this new vision and creating this new version of my life 1 year at a time.
That's awesome. 1 year at a time. I think that there was this great quote, like I'm going to slaughter it, but essentially paraphrasing it down, people overestimate what they can accomplish in 5 years, but underestimate what they can accomplish in a year. Like, oh, I'll be able to do all this stuff. But like, actually, if you buckle down right now and you start hammering every day, If I get a podcast episode a week for each of my podcasts, that's 52 new episodes times 2. That's a lot of episodes up. That's a lot of visibility. That's a lot of helping people. That's a lot of coaching people, And if you can keep hammering and just make sure, I had a class that I was teaching at a university. And my students said, how can I become a successful content creator? How can I become a successful YouTuber? How can I become a successful podcaster? I said, what's your next video? Okay, get it done. That's it. Just get it done. Get it up. Get it shared. And what do we do after that? Get your next video. Have some fun. Think about what you want to be filming. Think about what you want to get out there. Get it up. Get it done. Move on. Because if you can consistently, keep hammering those. I was telling my wife about the, railroads of old that were built across the U.S. And, how do you build them? You hammer one nail in at a time. Boom, you hammer it down. And then where do you go next? You go to the next nail. And it's like, we would like things to be more glamorous. We would like them to be more fancy. But the reality is, line them up, knock them down.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're starting out, what you're doing is you're actually laying the bricks of a foundation. And so many people just say, well, I'm going to make a YouTube video and I'm going to go viral. Good luck with that, because the best thing you can do is just put the best of yourself out there to the best of your abilities now. And I've talked to people just like you've talked to people that say they want to do videos or they want to start a podcast, but they don't because they're afraid that the first ones might suck. And I always tell them, take out the word might. Your first videos and podcasts are going to suck eggs. But if you don't do that first one, your 101st one is not going to be very good. So get it out of the way. And I'm one of those people, man, I had brutal self-talk for years of my life, which I pronounced decades. Just real bad. And I would look at my old stuff. I would look at old videos of me speaking on stages and I just go, ugh. And then I finally figured out I had to be that bad in order to get better. So now when I see the old stuff, I don't go to delete it. If I see, I've done hundreds of podcasts, probably almost 1,000 episodes by now over the past 18 years. I've been on over 300 shows all around the world. When I listen back or hear the old ones now, I look and I go, oh my gosh, that's adorable. Look at that.
Right.
It's like the kindergarten version of Steve's, messages and stories and stuff, but I don't delete them because they got me here and I see the progression. And if I didn't have the guts or the stupidity to do that first one, we wouldn't be here. So just Nike said it best, just do it.
I love that, man. Just do it, because you never know. You never know where things are going to go and how they might, what. There was this, I remember once I had this opportunity. I had moved up to Los Angeles to work in film, and people at that time, LA was still, rocking and rolling. And I had the opportunity. I signed up for what was it, Central Casting or something. It was background acting, but it was still fun. So I got this call. Hey, do you want to be in this big movie? And I was like, how long is it going to be? And they're like, well, it's shooting for 4 days. And I was like, 4 days? I don't know if I can get 4 days off of work. I've got all these things I got to do. And then finally I was like, I don't feel like I can do that. And I was just like, turned it down. I felt bad about it. And I got a call back 2 days later. And I felt regret. I was like, 4 days wasn't that bad. And then they called me back. I was like, we have a different role. I was like, what is this? They're like, do you want to be on this big movie for 2 weeks? And I was just like, 2 weeks? I can't get that time off. I will lose my job. And, it could be really tough. And so finally I was just like, I was about ready to hang up. And I said, you know what? Let's do this. Let's do this. And I was like, I hung up the call and I was terrified. And I'm not telling anyone to like just go crazy. But there are opportunities that pop up. So I showed up for that movie and we were there for 2 weeks. And I was just like, you know what? I had hoped during that time that some crazy thing would happen. Nothing did. And it was just there working. And I was like, all right, I got to go figure out what to do about a new job. Got to go get something else. But in that last day, I was just like, you know what? Today, I'm just going to enjoy things. And I'd met some people, met some friends there. That last day, I was standing there going, I'm just having fun. And a guy I met on production came out and said, Sean, you want to come up here and do something else? I was like, do what, man? He's like, I just need you to stand here. And this is where the main actor was standing. Stand here while we light the lights. We don't have a person for this guy. No one showed up today. So I need you to stand here and just do what he does. And because you guys are about the same height, same hair color, just stand here. And I was like, all right. And I stood there, and then I stood there for the next 5 months because they kept bringing me back every day. But it was like, because they're like, hey, you good, you're easy to work with, you're professional, you're a nice guy. We would like to have you around set. We want to have you here because, we get you extra work. So just keep showing up. You'll be the stand-in for this guy for the whole movie. And it was wild because it took a simple yes. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know what this is all about. But so often, and for me, like, I love that Jim Carrey yes man. Because, he goes in and it was this movie where whatever's happening, the character has to say yes. Because I feel like so often, last year, I had a couple clients that all came in with these packages that were less than perfect. And I said, you know what? It's not quite what I'm looking for my company right now. You know what? And all of a sudden, I was thinking back. I was like, if I had said yes to all those clients, it would have been $150,000 in contracts. And instead, I don't have that because I said no. And so for me, I'm always that guy who's thinking of reasons to say no. And I'm like, you know what? My intention for this next year is to say yes again. I used to, but I need to again.
Oh, I love that. And you reminded me, gosh, I haven't told this story in a while. The greatest yes, business-wise, that I ever said was when June of 2011, my then marketing person reached out and said, Steve, I'm desperate. I sponsored the 8th hole at this particular country club in this town in New Hampshire tomorrow, and I need somebody to stand there all day and measure how far people can hit a marshmallow with a golf club, and I thought of you. Would you do it? There's no pay or anything. And I went, okay. So the next morning at about 7:00, I'm sitting in a golf cart waiting to be driven out there. I got a gym bag overflowing with bags of marshmallows in my lap, and a woman hops in the golf cart and looks at me and says, what the heck are you doing? I said, I'm measuring how far people can hit a marshmallow with a golf club. Like, this is skilled labor for me today. Yeah. And she's laughing, and we're talking, and I'm making her laugh. And she says, I got to ask you, what do you do for a living? Because I can't imagine this is it. And I said, actually, I'm a professional speaker. I talk about visualization, motivation, positivity, acts of kindness, gratitude, and all the good stuff. And she goes, oh, do you have a card? And I gave her a card. 15 months later, she called, which turned into $10,000 worth of speaking gigs and referrals. She is the real estate, one of her team. She was the team leader of one of the biggest, most successful real estate companies in southern New Hampshire. One of her people sold my wife and I this beautiful home 7 years ago this week. We moved in, all because I said yes to marshmallows and a golf cart in June of 2011.
That's awesome.
Moment.
You can't see all those strings that are tying everything together. That was my favorite Steve Jobs quote, was when he did that Stanford speech, and he says, you can't connect the dots looking forward, but you can, connect them looking back. So you just have to say yes and see where things go. Now let's imagine I come to you and you're going to tell me how to change my life. What might be some of the things that I need to do to really get things going in the right direction?
Be brutally honest with yourself. Put pen to paper. And I say pen to paper because you're working both sides of your brain versus just electronically or on the phone. Put pen to paper. Go back to those 8 areas of life that I mentioned. And tell me, if you're a numeric person, scale of 1 to 10. If you're more descriptive, creative like I am, write me out a little paragraph just describing and defining where you feel, how you would evaluate each of those areas of your life right now. No one else ever has to see it. You can burn it when you're done, but be brutally honest about where you are right now, because some people go, my life sucks. And they broad brush everything. And it turns out 1 or 2 areas of their life may really indeed suck. but they've got all these good things going on in these other things. So they're already ahead of the game in some of those areas and in a good direction, in a good place. But they write off the whole thing, acting out of desperation because maybe some areas aren't perfect yet. So too many people don't have their legs under them when they start. They just see all these shiny things on the horizon and they start racing towards them, forgetting that they've actually got some pretty good bricks of a foundation already. So I just start with people right where they are and get a good, honest look at what they've got going for them and where they want to go and how they can use what they're already succeeding at and what are already good habits and good skills and things they already have confidence in to maybe just shift things a little bit to take it in a different direction, but to use the skills that they've already built up. Too many people just want to take a wrecking ball to their entire lives and they don't get specific, which is the second part. What do most people write in the New Year's resolutions? I want to be happier. I want to be healthier. I want more money. There's no quantification there. That's just, you just want more or better. I mean, you got to know where you're at, know where you want to go to be able to, like you said, draw the strings and the lines in the point A to point B. It's like having a GPS, but it doesn't know where you're starting. It just keeps saying recalculating. That's all some people do their entire lives. Recalculate.
I love that because, and I did business school a couple of years ago. And one of the things that, everyone's talking about SMART goals, they got to be specific. They need to be measurable. Mm-hmm. They need to be attainable. They need to be relevant and time bound. And it's like, I think the one thing that a lot of people forget when they talk about improving their life, they forget about that M. Things need to be measurable, and that's a good thing, like right now, I want to be the greatest podcaster ever. Well, okay. That's awesome. That's great. What does that mean even, Well, let's say right now I'm getting 2,000 downloads a week, 10,000 downloads a week, right? Well, that's great. That's good for you. Well, I want to be up to 20. Well, that's even better. Now let's see, how can we go about doing that? Well, you can have things being measurable. Then you actually can say, all right, well, I want to increase this much because I want to be better. I want to be happier. Well, what does happier look like to you? Does that mean that you get to have an extra spa day every month? Does that mean that you spend more time with family? And I think that for me, when I speak to people, I try to work with them on really thinking about how they can actually make those things happen, because we can't control everything. We have a world with millions of variables, infinite number of variables always at play around us. But we can control a certain number of things. I can control the direction I'm putting my energy. It's like if you want to go for you go skiing or surfing, you can't necessarily pick how the snow is going to be. You can't necessarily pick how the waves are going to be that day. You can pick where you're sitting. You can pick the direction. You can pick how hard you paddle. But you got to figure out on what you can actually work on and then be smart with it. Be really smart with your intention and be smart with where you put your energy. Because one of the things that I think about like this, if you want to become a great pianist and you spend 30 minutes every day practicing the piano for 1 year, you're going to be pretty good after 1 year. It's a measurable thing. You measured 30 minutes a day, and you know what? That's really attainable. But that same amount of time, if you don't practice piano and you sit there watching videos on TikTok or YouTube or even Netflix, after 1 year, you're not going to be a better piano player because you didn't set those goals that you could actually attain. Yeah, I just want to be better at piano. What does that mean? How can you actually do that? What are the actions you can take? I'm all about actions.
Yeah, as am I. Action and daily action and building habits and building momentum and confidence. And, you said something good too, and I want to go back to your trip to the zoo with your daughter. I was talking to a dad who has 3 kids, and he said, I want to be a better dad. So I'm thinking of taking them all to Disney for 1 week a year. And I said, well, that leaves 51 other weeks that you're leaving out opportunities to be a better dad. So we just kicked around ideas. And what I say to everybody is, look, I can come up with a million ideas as fast as I can. Take what works for you, apply it, and if it works, great. Start building the muscle and build better habits and incorporate it. And I said, what if every Sunday, because the family, they always have dinner together on Sundays. I said, if you let each of your kids pick one of the nights during the week, and for 20 minutes, for 30 minutes, you do whatever activity they want to do, but they have to tell you in advance what it's going to be. So you got a full week at Disney once a year, or playing dinosaurs with your son for 20 to 30 minutes every Thursday night, knees and elbows on the living room floor, playing dinosaur battles, with your kid, and just creating an amazing connection. And it also lets the kids kind of choose the activity, and they get their special time with dad. Maybe it's having a book read to them before bedtime, or whatever it is. Maybe they go out for ice cream. Maybe they go to the zoo, just the two of them, and take a picture, and it becomes a fridge magnet that reminds them down the line of how much fun they had. So it's not just these one and done things. And this happens with couples too. I talked to a gentleman one time. He was kind of a douche about the way he even said it to me. He wasn't a paid client, so I can talk about him this way. He essentially said, well, I'm taking my wife on a 10-day vacation halfway around the world. And basically what he was saying is, so that should shut her up for a while about spending time together. And I thought, wow. So I made a suggestion. I said, okay, nothing wrong with that. But for the rest of the year, does your wife drink coffee? He goes, oh yeah, every morning. I said, do you know what her favorite flavor is? He goes, well, she got them pods everywhere. I said, okay, you got a Keurig, good. I said, what if tomorrow morning you made sure there was plenty of water in the Keurig, you put her favorite mug underneath it, you put one of her flavors inside of it, and either set the timer for when she wakes up, or just leave a note saying, hey, honey, the water's there, the pod's here, the mug is here, have a great day. And I said that to 3 gentlemen in the course of 1 week. Now, I've lost touch with 2 of them, but one of them is still doing this. And his wife sends him a text at least 3 times a week in the afternoon saying, I just love waking up in the morning and finding my coffee ready to go. He's been doing that for 4.5 years. Which marriage do you think is the happiest right now out of the 3? I've lost touch with the other 2. I think one of them's actually divorced. I do know that. But this guy and his wife are still going strong. And he takes less than 2 minutes a day to do this action that brings amazing energy to their relationship.
He's got the good relationship, because he puts in the time.
Yep.
Things aren't always smooth sailing. How can people weather the storms when they come, the challenges when they come, the setbacks when they come?
Be brutally honest about why the storm is there. Did you do something to cause it? Because a lot of people have. Some people are drilling holes in their own boats, and that's a sad fact of life. I'm not a confrontational person, and that is part of what blew up my first marriage. Because little storms came, and I didn't bother. Guess what happens when you put enough little storms together? A Category 5 hurricane comes ripping through and knocks your roof off and knocks your foundation out from under you. So as storms come in life, figure out what the root of them really is. It may not be as bad as you think. I've had storms with people over the years. I'm a very passionate person about what I do, and even in the radio industry and comedy and everything, very passionate, and had a couple of disagreements with people and basically burned down friendships. And like, that's it. We're done being friends and this and that. I've actually reached out and apologized to 4 different people, including one earlier today, for my part of what I felt destroyed our relationship. And all 4 of them have said, well, that was nothing. No big deal. We just drifted apart. And, I thought it was this really bad thing, and I blew it all up into a huge storm. And it was one of the small storms that if I just dealt with it, it would have been fine. And literally just a few hours ago, somebody said, Steve, I don't even remember what you said. I wasn't mad at you. I just assumed she was, and she stopped calling, so I stopped calling her, and we just drifted for a few years. So be real about what the storms really are, and it's going to be a lot easier to deal with them.
Yeah. There's this interesting place where we we don't always see these things sneaking up on us. We might be busy, or there might just be stuff going on. And like those storms, when they hit, we're like, where did this come from? But it came from the place that all of these different storms often come from that place that we don't necessarily want to look. But if you can sit there and create a plan, maybe not a plan to handle, like to not have storms, but a plan on how you're going to respond when they come. First of all, I'm going to keep my cool. I'm going to do the best to keep my cool as I can, and then start figuring out what are the practical steps I can take to kind of mitigate this, or to at least de-escalate things. And the thing that I think is the most important for me, at least, is to remember that when I fall down, I will tell myself it's time to get back up. It's time to get back up. I was working with the podcaster Mel Robbins last summer, and it was a great experience working with her and her team. And she's got her 5-second rule, which is essentially just, whenever something's going on, you count down from 5. You're laying in bed, having a hard time getting up. Yeah, you know what? I don't know if I can face this day. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you stand up. And, okay, you got something going on. Just count down to it. And it's those little choices to start or to get back up that make the biggest difference in the world, Yeah.
You're talking my language, because for the past 2.5 years, I have blended Mel's 5-second rule and her high five habit. Because
Nice.
I get up Monday through Friday, 5:05 a.m., got to turn off the alarm clock within 5 beeps, and then I count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Both feet are on the floor. Get to the bathroom mirror, give myself a big old high five and a smile, and our lights are bright, so I got one eye that's like barely open, but I'm still seeing myself high five with a smile in the mirror. And Mel is one of my favorite people out there. So congratulations for being part of a podcast or broadcast with her and working with her team. I absolutely love Mel, and her new book is
So
amazing as well. The Let Them Theory. That's helped me a lot over the past couple of months through a very difficult time in my life. The Let Them Theory. Because I was getting all caught up and torqued up over a few things, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let it go.
Do you mind if we talk about what was some of the things that you had mentioned it before we started? There are some things that you're processing right now.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. On December 9th, my wife and I traveled, December 8th, we traveled over to London. We're going to be there for a week. And unfortunately, my wife, over the past 1.5 years, age 56, has been struggling with the side effects of menopause. And in addition to the hot and cold flashes, she has not slept, gotten a full night's sleep in 1.5 years. And she was exhausted constantly and very tired. And unfortunately, 24 hours after we arrived, she had a major heart event and passed away on the morning of December 9th. I found her in the room. We'd gone down to breakfast, and she said, well, I got to do a little work on my laptop. And I said, okay, I'll go down to the gym. I came back up and found her, and she still had a bit of a pulse. I worked with a hotel staff member to try to revive her. While we waited for the EMTs, they worked for an hour, 7 of them in rotation with some equipment, and they were not able to revive her. So 12 weeks ago, at the time of this broadcast, I lost my wife of 17.5 years. We got to be head over heels in love for, and I did the math, 6,386 days. And somewhere right now, every time I tell our story, there is a beautiful blue-eyed, blonde-haired angel rolling her eyes, because we've got a love story of love stories. It got me on Oprah's radio network 4 times on XM satellite back in the day. It's a fairy tale that we made come true for 17.5 years. And I'm processing still through grief and overwhelm and shock and just being shattered on a daily basis in rotation. I'm working with a one-on-one with a grief counselor and a part of a grief support group, which the day after she died, sitting all alone, shattered and heartbroken and shaking in London, researching grief support because there was no way I would be able to healthfully survive this one. She literally died in my arms, 3,000 miles from home, and I was all alone.
How can people handle grief? What have you found so far on your journey?
Feel it. Don't be one of those people that says, well, when I feel my emotions, I bury them. Oh my gosh, that is the worst thing you can do to yourself, because you are going to destroy your mind, your heart, your soul, and your body if you do that. I was operating on pure adrenaline because I had to do literally every phone call, every bit of paperwork, dig through and find every account of ours, find out where all the money is and how to pay all the bills. So I didn't get to grieve for the first 4 or 5 weeks. My sister came over after 5 days. She flew 5,000 miles to come over to be with me, to help me out and support me. It took us until December 24th to be able to fly back to America, and my wife's body was not returned until January 1st. So it was a very long period of pure adrenaline and panic and fear every day. And how do we navigate this? It took me about 5 weeks after she died until the grief actually started to come out and I started to actually feel it. And I shed tears every day, several times a day. I've built 2 shelves of a 4-shelf unit in our living room are 100% devoted to her. I've got a small keepsake urn with a very tiny share of her ashes. We gave most of her ashes to her mom. And I talk to her every day. She's still a part of my life. There's no denial here. There's just, it's a shift. It's different. We had a love that would last a lifetime. And I plan to honor her in some way for the rest of my life. And she was one of the founding members of my family's 501c3 called Beach Bum Philanthropy that we started over 12 years ago. And we created these giving missions that are specifically tied to my wife, Tina. They're called Tina's Buckets of Love. We work with a local shelter that helps mostly women with kids, single moms, get back on their feet. And when they get into their own apartment, we bring them a ton of basic household items that they probably don't have in a mop bucket, a laundry basket, and a kitchen trash can. And I got to deliver the first 2 the other day and bawled my eyes out right there at the shelter. These are the ways you deal with grief. You figure out how to best honor the person that you lost. And just like there was a lot of humor in our relationship when she was alive, there's still so much humor in my life now that helps me to cope and deal and continue to move forward and not curl up in a ball and lose myself because we work so hard to have what we have. So every day I talk to her, I journal, and just keep moving forward.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self some advice, what advice would you give yourself?
I've answered this question the same way for the past 15 plus years. Always remember Tina. That was my wife. We went to high school together, had a crush, each had a crush on each other, and neither one of us ever said a damn thing. I never asked her out. 21 years later, in June of 2007, she sent me an email from 1,350 miles away. She was living in Florida by then. Said, hey, I saw your name online. We should keep in touch. And a month later, even without a picture of her, because she wouldn't send me one, we both admitted how we'd felt back in high school. We fell in love. And so anytime I've been asked, what would you tell your younger self? Just always remember Tina. And I'm glad I did, because got to enjoy 17 and a half years in love with her.
Thank you for sharing that, brother. Life is that roller coaster. And there are these ups and downs, but when I was at the park with my daughter yesterday, she reached out and held my hand. And as we walked hand in hand through the zoo, I realized she might not always reach for my hand. There can be years where she kind of pulls away. But yesterday I was able to enjoy it and be present with it and recognize that those moments, any of those moments, is a gift for a lifetime. And so you just have to remember that those moments are happening and to pay attention to them, because we live in a world where things and resources and time is finite. And, it sounds like you were present for most of those moments with Tina. And that is a beautiful thing.
We made moments happen every single day. And one of the greatest joys, and I actually just shared this on social media in a group of entrepreneurs talking about hustling and grinding and ignoring everything else. I said, I used to leave notes on a regular basis for Tina. We had all these different colored sticky note pads, and I would just grab a Sharpie and write, love you, 143, IFLY, which stands for I freaking love you, I fly. And all these notes, and I would leave them on her desk. And she would always have 5 or 6 still stuck there, but I never knew where all the old ones had gone. And after she passed away, when I was going through her office, I found folders that had all of these notes. She kept everything. And I made a collage, big picture frame that I found in our basement, big one. And I made a collage of all the sticky notes, and it's framed and it's going up on one of our walls. Because all those moments added up, and she kept them. And it's real important too. Whoever you're with, now this applies to your daughter, to your partners, husband, wives, whatever. Know their love language. Don't necessarily think that your love language is somebody else's. Tina and I not only knew each other's love languages, which were simple notes, cuddling, snuggling, holding hands. We held hands everywhere. We not only knew each other's love language, we spoke it fluently for the other person. That's an important thing to know in any relationship, whether it's your kids or your spouse, your partner. Know that and speak it often. And you might just be blown away by how amazing your life gets. And no regrets. We had an amazing 17 and a half years together and held hands everywhere we went. I've got pictures of us in the same exact pose when we were 39, when we reconnected, and when we were 56. I go, a little more gray hair, but those two people are madly in love the whole way. And it's amazing.
That's beautiful. Well, brother, I want to say thank you for sharing that today. And that's a mic drop moment right there. So I say let's do this actually, and then we can finish up. But where can people find you that want to find more of your work? Where can they look?
Nice and easy. I'm mostly, as far as social media, Facebook and LinkedIn are the big ones for me, or my website, which is visionboardspecial.com.